Every sound that leaves your mouth carries a vibration, and every vibration has an impact on the world around you. Words are not just tools for communication, they are frequencies that either build or destroy, heal or harm, elevate or diminish. When a person speaks, the energy within them takes form through language. Every sentence is a release of inner vibration into the outer world. This is why in ancient traditions, speech was treated as sacred. Words were not used carelessly, because they were known to shape reality, to summon outcomes, to alter emotional and spiritual states. What we speak becomes a mirror of what we carry inside. When the inner world is in conflict, the words follow the same discord. When the inner world is at peace, the voice becomes a reflection of calm strength. To understand the energy of words, one must first understand the energy of intention. The power behind a word is not in the sound alone, but in the consciousness that fuels it. When words are spoken with anger, they burn. When they are spoken with compassion, they heal. It is the same vibration, yet directed through a different emotional frequency. This is why silence is often more powerful than speech, because silence gathers energy. It allows the mind to settle, to purify the vibration before releasing it. When a person speaks from stillness, their words carry a grounded resonance that can reach deeper than sound itself. The energy of those words does not come from the desire to be heard, but from the truth of being aligned with one's inner state. There is an invisible weight to every word that leaves your lips. Words are like seeds. They enter the minds of others, they enter your own subconscious, and they take root. Every affirmation, every complaint, every expression of gratitude or resentment is a form of programming. Over time, the words we repeat become the patterns we live. When one constantly says, "I can't," that energy manifests limitation. When one says, "I am capable," that same energy turns into potential. The universe does not differentiate between truth and sarcasm, between conviction and casual remark. It only responds to frequency. Therefore, when one speaks, one should speak with awareness, not from impulse, but from alignment. Many people underestimate how much their environment is influenced by the vibration of their words. A home filled with angered speech becomes heavy, dense, and restless. A place where words of love and gratitude are spoken becomes light, peaceful, and nurturing. Even plants, water, and air respond to this energetic exchange. In ancient Shaolin wisdom, it was said that mastery begins with the tongue, because through the control of speech, one learns to control energy. To speak consciously is to direct life force. When words flow without mindfulness, energy leaks. When words are measured and intentional, energy strengthens and refines itself. The discipline of mastering one's words begins with mastering one's thoughts. Every word is first born as an inner whisper, as a vibration in the mind. If the mind is filled with fear, those vibrations carry tension even before sound is produced. The true practice, then, is not only in speaking carefully but in cultivating inner purity. The mind that generates words must be still, otherwise speech becomes an echo of chaos. In this way, meditation and speech are deeply connected. The more silence a person cultivates within, the more powerful and clear their words become. When the heart is open and the breath steady, words become medicine. They can guide, inspire, awaken, and heal not only others but also the speaker themselves. Observe how words move energy within the body. When you say something uplifting, the chest expands, the breath deepens, and the mind clears. When you speak with bitterness, the body contracts, the breath shortens, and tension grows. This is not coincidence. Speech is a physical act of energy exchange. The vibration of words interacts with the nervous system, the breath, and even the heartbeat. Therefore, speaking positively is not simply a mental exercise. It is a spiritual and physiological alignment. Each word becomes a pulse of energy moving through your being, shaping your emotions, thoughts, and health. In every spiritual practice that seeks mastery of self, attention to speech is essential. The wise observe before they respond, knowing that every word carries responsibility. To waste energy through idle talk or harsh expression is to scatter one's inner power. Those who learn restraint gain depth. Their silence gathers strength. Their words, when finally spoken, carry the weight of truth. The more one becomes aware of the energetic nature of speech, the less one desires to speak without purpose. Conversation becomes sacred exchange, not entertainment. When you listen deeply, you begin to sense the vibration beneath words, not only in others but in yourself. You can feel when speech arises from ego, when it carries insecurity or hidden pain. You can also feel when speech flows from authenticity, when it carries presence and balance. In this awareness, communication transforms. It no longer becomes about convincing or competing, but about harmonizing energies. Words, then, are no longer used to dominate but to elevate. The more consciousness you bring into your speech, the more you can shape the vibration of your life. Words create worlds. Every belief you hold was once spoken by someone else or by you. Every goal begins as a phrase, a declaration, a statement of intent. The entire human experience is built upon language, yet language itself is energy molded by awareness. When you learn to align that awareness with calm, love, and truth, your words become instruments of creation rather than destruction. Through them, you not only express who you are, but also continuously become who you are meant to be. When you speak, energy moves through you, and the way you direct it defines the life that unfolds around you. Before any word is spoken, before any action takes shape, there exists a silent movement within, a quiet impulse of thought, emotion, and purpose that gives birth to expression. Every act, whether it is speech, creation, or even stillness, begins not with motion but with intention. Intention is the unseen architect that shapes expression, giving it direction, clarity, and power. Without intention, expression becomes scattered, diluted, and hollow. It may make noise, but it will not create impact. It may appear vibrant on the surface, yet lack depth and resonance. Intention is the difference between a spark that fades and a flame that endures. In the teachings of awareness and discipline, it is often said that the outer reflects the inner. What you express outwardly is only a mirror of what exists within. Therefore, to purify your expression, you must first purify your intention. Many people attempt to fix their outer communication, to speak more beautifully, to act more kindly, to create more meaningfully, yet neglect the inner preparation that gives these expressions true authenticity. They polish the fruit without nurturing the roots. Intention is the soil that nourishes the expression. Without fertile intention, no growth can sustain itself. The world moves at great speed, and in this rush, people speak before thinking, act before reflecting, and express before understanding. When this happens, expression becomes reaction rather than creation. Reaction is born of unconsciousness, while creation is born of awareness. The one who moves with intention acts with clarity. Their words carry weight not because they are loud, but because they are aligned. To express without intention is to shoot an arrow without aiming. It may still fly, but it will never reach the heart of its target. Before you express, pause. Feel the energy that precedes the movement. Ask yourself, what is the purpose of this act? What do I wish to cultivate through this expression? Intention does not mean control. It means awareness. It is the gentle discipline of aligning your actions with your inner truth. When intention leads, expression becomes graceful, precise, and effortless. When expression leads without intention, it becomes restless, anxious, and unfocused. The practice, therefore, is not to suppress expression, but to slow down enough to allow intention to surface first. Consider the difference between a word spoken in haste and a word spoken in mindfulness. The same sentence, the same tone even, can carry completely different energy depending on the intention behind it. One may wound, the other may heal. The vibration of expression is not determined by sound alone, but by the energy from which it originates. Intention shapes that energy. If one speaks from ego, their words carry heaviness. If one speaks from compassion, their words carry light. The listener may not consciously know why they feel the difference, but they feel it nonetheless, because energy precedes comprehension. Every expression has its own field of energy. When you move through life with clear intention, you begin to notice how your energy transforms your environment. A room brightens when one enters with peace. A conversation shifts when one speaks from sincerity. A task becomes sacred when it is done with purpose. Intention imbues the ordinary with meaning. It turns simple gestures into teachings, simple moments into practices. Yet cultivating intention requires patience and self-honesty. It asks you to look deeply into the motives that drive your expression. Many actions appear kind, but are rooted in the need for validation. Many words sound humble, but are driven by fear. Many pursuits seem noble, but conceal attachment. True intention arises only when one is free from the need to impress, to prove, or to control. It is born from clarity, a state where the inner noise has settled, and the action that follows is natural, unforced, and authentic. Training the body is visible work. Training the mind is silent work. Training intention is subtle work. It begins in the unseen, in the quiet observation of your own impulses before they manifest. It is to become aware of the origin of your thoughts and the nature of your emotions. When you observe without judgment, you begin to notice the space between impulse and expression. That space is where intention is born. And when you begin to live from that space, expression becomes an extension of consciousness itself. In the practice of discipline, the monk learns to move slowly not because he is slow, but because he is deliberate. Every gesture, every breath, every step is filled with awareness. He understands that rushing breaks alignment. The modern world glorifies speed, but speed without clarity is chaos. The wise know that true efficiency arises from stillness, from moving with purpose rather than haste. Intention is the anchor that prevents expression from being swept away by the storm of impulses. Intention also refines creativity. The artist who paints without awareness of why he paints becomes lost in confusion. But the artist who paints with a clear inner motive channels the invisible into form. The power of his creation does not lie in the colors or the strokes, but in the energy of the intention that guided his hand. This is why two works that look similar can feel entirely different. Expression without intention can imitate form, but it cannot transmit essence. The same principle applies to life itself. Life is the greatest art form, and every moment is an opportunity for expression. To live without intention is to drift from one experience to another without depth. To live with intention is to transform each experience into a conscious act of creation. You begin to see that what you say, how you move, and even how you breathe becomes a form of communication with existence itself. You are no longer reacting to life. You are participating in its unfolding with awareness. When you understand intention before expression, you begin to sense the deep interconnection between thought, energy, and reality. You begin to realize that the universe responds not to your words, but to the energy behind them. Expression is the language of action. Intention is the language of energy. The more aligned they are, the more harmonious your life becomes. Expression that arises from pure intention carries a vibration that resonates with truth. It attracts clarity, nurtures peace, and amplifies presence. Every word we speak is a reflection of our inner state. The language we use is not random. It is a map of the mind, a mirror of our consciousness. Words carry vibration, and vibration carries intention. The 5 words we repeat most often, whether silently within or aloud to others, shape the way we see ourselves and the world around us. When we speak, we do not simply describe reality, we create it. The words we use become the structure through which energy flows, and in time, that energy hardens into form. If you observe closely, you will notice that language reveals patterns long before behavior does. Someone who constantly says, "I can't," has already built invisible walls in their mind. Someone who often says, "I will," walks with quiet conviction even when the path is uncertain. The 5 words we hold closest are like mirrors showing us who we are becoming. They reflect not what we wish to be, but what we truly believe about ourselves. The ancient masters understood that transformation begins not with action, but with awareness. And the simplest way to awaken awareness is to listen to your words. When your language is filled with doubt, fear, or resistance, it is because those same vibrations live within. The external world echoes the internal dialogue. If you say, "Nothing ever works for me," then you are tuning your frequency to failure. If you say, "Everything is teaching me," then even pain becomes a path toward awakening. Each of us carries certain words like talismans. They sit on the tongue, ready to shape every interaction. Some words open us, others close us. Some words heal, others harm. When you hear someone speak, you can sense immediately whether their words come from truth or from fear. Truth has a resonance. It settles the mind and clears the air around it. Fear tightens, compresses, and makes the space heavy. The 5 words that dominate our speech are clues to the state of our alignment. Imagine standing before a still lake. If your mind is turbulent, the reflection will be distorted. If your mind is still, the reflection will be clear. Words are like that water. They reflect back the quality of your inner stillness. When your heart is restless, your speech becomes reactive and defensive. When your heart is at peace, your words move with precision and grace. The discipline then is to watch, not to judge, not to control, but to witness the language that arises naturally. In the Shaolin way, mastery begins with observation. Before changing your movement, you must see how your body moves. Before changing your words, you must hear how your mouth moves. Most people speak without awareness. They release energy constantly without knowing where it flows. But when you become conscious of speech, you begin to recognize the mirror effect. You start to hear what your soul has been saying all along. The phrases you repeat are not habits. They are vibrations revealing the frequency of your inner being. Consider this. If every word carries a vibration, then speaking is an act of creation. Each time you speak, you send ripples through the energetic field that surrounds you. Some words strengthen the current, others weaken it. This is why silence is not emptiness. It is the preparation for powerful speech. When you are silent, you are polishing the mirror. You are clearing away the dust of distraction so that the next words you speak can carry clarity and direction. The 5 words that define your current life are the ones you repeat without noticing. They could be, I am too busy, I am not ready, I don't deserve this, or perhaps, I trust the process, I am learning, I will rise again. These phrases become mantras, whether you intend them to or not. Every repetition reinforces their energy. Over time, they become identity. You do not even need to say them aloud, thinking them is enough. The universe responds not to the noise of speech, but to the vibration of conviction. To work with this mirror, one must first become still enough to see it. Observe a single day of your speech. Write down the words that recur most often. Not the words spoken in public performance, but those whispered under your breath, muttered when frustrated, or repeated in your thoughts when alone. You may be surprised to find how much energy is bound up in unconscious repetition. Once seen, this pattern can be released, and in that release, energy transforms. When the mirror becomes clear, you begin to choose your words deliberately. You no longer speak to impress or defend, but to align. You begin to use words as instruments of energy rather than weapons of reaction. You find that fewer words are needed, yet they carry more power. You discover that simplicity has more resonance than complexity, and that intention shapes impact more than volume ever could. In time, your 5 words begin to change. Fear dissolves into trust. Doubt transforms into curiosity. Resistance becomes openness. This shift is not forced, it arises naturally when awareness deepens. You no longer need to fight the old words, you simply outgrow them. The mirror changes because the one looking into it has changed. Every word you speak can either blur or polish the mirror of your consciousness. Every phrase you choose can either trap you in illusion or guide you toward truth. The 5 words that define your daily life are not fixed, they are invitations. They ask you, what vibration do you wish to live in? To understand this is to recognize that speech is sacred and that silence is its guardian. When you speak with awareness, your words become bridges between thought and reality, between inner world and outer experience, between energy and matter. When the words become clear, the reflection does too. You begin to see not only who you are, but who you are becoming. The mirror no longer lies. It simply shows you the energy you carry and the truth you emit with every breath you take. Every sound you form, every word you send into the silence of the universe, before words exist, before they take shape on our tongue or in our mind, there is energy. Every thought, every emotion, every silent intention carries a vibration that moves through the air long before a single sound escapes our lips. You may not realize it, but when you speak, others are not merely hearing your sentences. They are sensing the energy behind them. Your tone, your pauses, your silence, and the weight of your intention all communicate far more than the words you choose. This is why truth can be felt even when unspoken. This is why deception can be sensed even when covered in beautiful sentences. Energy does not hide behind language. It reveals itself through presence. The human body, the breath, the eyes, they all transmit signals far beyond the reach of vocabulary. When you speak from frustration, no amount of polite phrasing can conceal it. When you speak from love, even silence becomes eloquent. We have been trained to focus on grammar, on structure, on the logic of expression, but we have forgotten that communication begins with vibration. It begins with how you feel, not what you say. Every room you enter already receives your frequency. Before you sit, before you smile, before you speak, your energy announces you. It tells others whether you are open or closed, calm or restless, authentic or pretending. It is impossible to fake energetic truth for long because energy communicates directly to the nervous system of others. Their body feels what yours emits even when their mind doesn't fully understand why. This is the silent dialogue that happens beneath every conversation. The invisible language that defines whether words are received or rejected. When your energy is scattered, your words lose their power. When your energy is centered, even few words are enough. A calm presence requires no convincing. People listen differently to someone who is grounded. Their attention naturally deepens because the energy being offered feels safe, real, and unforced. The greatest teachers and monks often speak very little, but their silence feels full, not empty. That fullness comes from alignment between inner state and outer expression. Words are tools, but energy is truth. You can memorize the most inspiring speech, yet if it does not resonate within you, it will sound hollow. You can read wisdom aloud, yet if your heart is not living that wisdom, it will not move others. To speak effectively, to touch hearts, one must first learn to feel energy, both one's own and that of others. To feel energy means to notice the state from which your actions arise. Are your words born from fear or from awareness? Are they serving your ego or serving clarity? Each question refines the purity of your energy before you express it. Many people try to change their lives by changing their words. They practice positive affirmations, repeat mantras, or alter their speech patterns. But real transformation begins when energy shifts. You cannot decorate a storm with beautiful language and expect sunshine. The emotional current behind your words is the true architect of the result. If the current is turbulent, your words will carry turbulence. If the current is still, your words will carry peace. In conversation, awareness of energy allows you to truly listen. Instead of waiting to respond, you begin to sense the intention behind another's voice. You hear not only their sentences, but the feeling beneath them, the exhaustion, the hope, the fear, the sincerity. When you become sensitive to this level of communication, compassion arises naturally. You no longer take words personally because you understand that people express their state, not always their truth. You begin to perceive their suffering instead of reacting to their tone. In relationships, energy defines connection more than compatibility of opinions. Two people may share similar beliefs, yet if their energies clash, understanding becomes difficult. Likewise, two people may differ in language, culture, or values, but if their energies align, a deep sense of harmony unfolds. Energy bypasses intellect, it speaks directly to the heart. To refine the energy you emit, self-awareness is essential. Notice how you enter a space. Are you tense, defensive, distracted? Notice how you breathe before speaking, shallow or deep, rushed or steady. Notice how your body feels when listening, open or contracted. Each of these elements silently transmits a message. The more conscious you become of these micro signals, the more your communication transforms. Your energy begins to soften, to stabilize, to purify. When your inner world is in chaos, your outer words become weapons or shields. But when your inner world is calm, your words become medicine. This is the difference between speaking to be right and speaking to be real. To be real, you must allow your energy to be transparent. You must speak from the quiet center of your being, not from the noise of your mind. From that space, language becomes effortless because it follows the flow of truth, not the pressure of performance. Every teacher, leader, or parent who has ever truly inspired others did so not because of eloquence, but because their energy aligned with their message. You can feel sincerity in their presence. You can feel peace in their pauses. You can feel conviction without aggression. That alignment is what transforms ordinary sentences into sacred sound. When you realize that people feel energy, not sentences, you begin to value silence as much as speech. You begin to clean the space within you before you speak into the space around you. You start to see that true communication is not about control, but connection. You learn that the more you align your energy with truth, the less you need to say, because your very presence begins to speak for you. When a person tries to control everything around them, people, outcomes, timing, even emotions, they enter a state of tension that suffocates the natural flow of life. Control may appear to offer safety, yet it often becomes a cage disguised as order. We tighten our grip on things we fear to lose, and in doing so, we lose our connection to the deeper intelligence that governs the rhythm of existence. The need to control is the ego's desperate attempt to maintain identity, to assert importance, to declare, "I am the one who decides." But true wisdom whispers that life was never meant to be dominated. It was meant to be understood, respected, and aligned with. Connection, on the other hand, is the opposite movement. It softens. It listens. It responds instead of reacts. Connection is not passive. It is active participation with awareness. It does not demand, it invites. It recognizes that control seeks to force outcomes, while connection allows outcomes to unfold. When we choose connection over control, we step into a dance with life rather than a struggle against it. We start to see that everything carries its own timing, its own intelligence, and that our task is not to overpower, but to tune ourselves to that rhythm. The desire to control stems from fear, fear of chaos, fear of uncertainty, fear of being hurt or unseen. The mind equates control with protection, but in this attempt to protect, it isolates. It builds walls, sets boundaries made not of wisdom, but of insecurity. In this isolation, understanding fades. We stop seeing things as they are and begin to see only what we want them to be. Our relationships weaken because they can no longer breathe under the pressure of our expectations. Our creativity fades because it cannot flow under the weight of perfectionism. Our peace disappears because it cannot coexist with constant tension. When we move toward connection, fear begins to dissolve. The energy once used to maintain control transforms into presence. We become capable of listening deeply, to others, to our own emotions, to silence. We begin to sense the invisible threads that link all things. We no longer force our opinions onto the world, but learn to cooperate with what is. Connection teaches us humility, and humility opens the door to understanding. It shows us that life is not a battle to win, but a relationship to nurture. In moments of frustration, when plans fall apart or people do not behave as we wish, the impulse to control reappears. This is natural. The key is not to eliminate that impulse, but to become aware of it. Awareness interrupts the cycle. It gives space between the desire to control and the act of doing so. In that space, connection can enter. It can whisper, listen, feel, observe. The moment we observe without judgment, energy begins to shift. Life starts to cooperate again. What seemed resistant becomes fluid because our inner state has changed. Consider how nature operates. The river does not control its path. It connects with gravity, with the land, with the stones that guide its flow. The tree does not control the seasons. It connects with the sun, the soil, the rain. Every force in nature is relational, not controlling. And yet, within this surrender to connection lies immense strength. The river carves valleys, the tree stands for centuries. Strength does not come from rigidity, but from the ability to align with what is greater than oneself. When a person chooses connection over control in daily life, small miracles begin to unfold. Conversations become more honest because we stop trying to win them. Relationships become lighter because we stop trying to manage the other person's emotions. Work becomes more creative because we stop demanding perfection from ourselves. Even our physical body relaxes, breath flows deeper, tension releases, sleep becomes restful. The more we connect, the more energy flows freely, not scattered in resistance, but harmonized in direction. Connection also reveals a deeper truth about power. Control is external power. It depends on circumstances bending to our will. But connection is internal power. It arises from understanding how everything is interdependent. The person who is connected no longer fears change because connection allows adaptation. They no longer fear uncertainty because connection allows trust. They no longer fear loss because connection reveals that nothing is ever truly separate. Everything we lose merely changes form. To practice connection is to practice awareness in every moment. It means asking, am I tightening or opening? Am I forcing or allowing? Am I trying to be right or am I trying to understand? Through these small reflections, control begins to lose its grip. We realize that control was never strength, it was a symptom of inner tension. Connection is strength because it requires vulnerability, attention, and courage. When the heart is connected, the mind quiets. Thoughts become clearer, choices more natural. You begin to see that what you once tried to control was never yours to begin with. It was only your interpretation of life. The deeper you connect, the less you fear the unknown, because you feel the living intelligence moving through everything, including yourself. This is not submission, it is alignment. It is recognizing that there is wisdom greater than thought, rhythm deeper than logic, flow stronger than force. The practice of choosing connection over control is a daily discipline. It requires gentleness, patience, and honesty. But each time you let go of control even slightly, you make room for life to guide you. You begin to participate in the unfolding rather than resisting it. And in this state of participation, understanding grows. You begin to sense that the world was never against you. It was simply waiting for you to stop fighting it, to join it, to move with it instead of against it. In the noise of the world, people have forgotten the power that lives in silence. They chase after voices that are loud, opinions that dominate, and expressions that overflow with emotion. But true strength does not rise from noise, it emerges from the stillness beneath it. When the mind becomes quiet, words gain a different weight. They no longer come from reaction, but from awareness. Speaking from stillness is not about saying less. It is about saying what matters with presence and truth behind it. Stillness is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of disturbance. It is the state in which one's energy settles, where the storms of thought calm down enough for clarity to surface. In that moment, when you no longer need to prove anything, defend anything, or convince anyone, your speech begins to carry power. You stop speaking to be heard. You speak because something real needs to be expressed. The difference is immense. One comes from ego, the other from essence. Every sound that comes from stillness travels further. It carries purity, intention, and resonance. Think of a lake when it is calm, only then can it reflect the sky perfectly. The same is true with the human spirit. When your inner world is still, your words become reflections of truth. But when your inner waters are disturbed, even the most beautiful words lose their meaning. You may speak with confidence, but there is no peace in your tone. You may sound wise, but there is no grounding in your energy. Speaking from stillness is about first mastering silence. In silence, you learn to listen, not just to others, but to the subtle movements within yourself. You begin to notice how thoughts rise and fall, how emotions come and go, how impulses push you to respond. When you can observe these movements without reacting, you begin to gain command over your own mind. That is the foundation of all inner power. Before one can speak from stillness, one must learn to dwell within it, to be unshaken by the world's noise, to find peace in their own breath. The reason many words in today's world hold no real power is because they are born from restlessness. People speak from anxiety, from fear, from the need to be right, or from the desire to be seen. But these forms of expression are only echoes of the mind's chaos. True communication does not come from agitation. It comes from balance. When you speak from stillness, your words are free from emotional residue. They are not polluted by your mood, your insecurity, or your attachment to outcome. They simply flow through you, clear and direct, like water from a pure spring. The still mind is like a mirror. It reflects what is real without distortion. That reflection becomes your guide. It tells you when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. There is wisdom in restraint. There is clarity in stillness. The one who speaks from stillness does not need to shout, for truth carries its own volume. They do not need to argue, for understanding flows naturally from presence. To cultivate this stillness, one must return to breath. Breath is the bridge between the inner and outer worlds. It connects the invisible to the visible. When your breathing slows, your mind slows. When your breathing deepens, your perception widens. In this state, words no longer rush out of you. They arise slowly, purposefully, from a place that feels aligned. That alignment between body, mind, and energy allows your voice to vibrate differently. People may not understand why, but they feel the difference. They sense calmness behind your tone, confidence behind your quietness, and truth behind your pauses. Stillness gives you access to the space between thoughts. In that space, wisdom lives. It is where intuition speaks, softly but clearly. It does not shout, it does not argue, it simply knows. When you speak from this place, your voice becomes an instrument of harmony rather than conflict. It begins to carry healing rather than judgment. It begins to connect rather than divide. This is why silence is not weakness, it is refinement. It refines your energy, your thoughts, and your words. Those who do not understand stillness will always fill silence with noise. They fear it because silence exposes truth. In stillness, you can no longer hide behind distractions. You face yourself, your patterns, your attachments, your fears. This confrontation is necessary. Without it, stillness cannot be born. The process is uncomfortable, yet deeply transforming. Once you pass through the discomfort of silence, you discover its beauty. It is not emptiness. It is full of presence, awareness, and potential. Speaking from stillness is also a discipline. It requires patience, humility, and observation. You learn to watch before you react, to understand before you speak, to breathe before you decide. You learn that silence is not a gap in communication. It is part of communication. It gives shape to your words, like space gives shape to sound. It allows meaning to emerge between the lines, between the breaths, between the moments of expression. When the inner world becomes still, the outer world begins to respond differently. Your interactions become smoother, your relationships more balanced, your intentions clearer. You stop wasting energy on unnecessary explanations. You stop trying to dominate conversations. You no longer need to force understanding. It happens naturally because the stillness within you transmits calmness around you. People begin to feel safer in your presence, not because of what you say, but because of how you are. Your energy speaks first, your words follow later. To speak from stillness is to embody awareness in motion. It is to let silence breathe through your words, to allow each sentence to be guided by consciousness rather than compulsion. It is to honor the sacred rhythm between sound and silence, between expression and observation, between the world outside and the universe within.